All right, everyone. So we have the full info for the upcoming holiday event, including the actual champion info, which is going to be a legendary Void Dwarf Tormund the Cold. We also have the schedule for all the events, what champions are going to need, and all that stuff, very similar to the fusions that we've had in the past. So what I wanted to do today is talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And unfortunately, there's two bad categories there. There's only one good. And I would say that overall, I definitely have many more negative opinions about this holiday fusion than I do positive ones. It was kind of a struggle to really think of too many good things in comparison to the bad things. But this is pretty typical. I know we've had many of these fusion events before, and this is kind of along the lines of what I was expecting. I know that's not really a good thing, but coming from Plarium, you guys know the way they do events, it's really... it's very, very triggering. I hate the way that they do events. I really wish they did them differently, but if you've been playing the game since April like I have, you're kind of just used to this by now, which, again, not really a very good thing to say. Now, one little note I will mention at the start is one of my predictions about the Artifact Enhancement event was very correct, and we are indeed not only going to be getting one Artifact Enhancement event in this upcoming Holiday Fusion, but we're going to be getting two of them, which means I would definitely save your silver. Even if you guys plan on skipping out on this fusion, which I'm guessing is going to be a large number of you, I would still save silver for the upcoming artifact events, might be able to get some other rewards out of those, and I think it's pretty safe to say with two artifact enhancement events in the holiday fusion, and one of them that we just had a couple of weeks ago to kind of test the waters, these artifact enhancement events are probably going to become a regular thing again, so definitely something to be mindful of, especially after many months without having them, because there is just so much wrong with them. We're starting to see them pop up quite a bit again. So now the question, should you skip it? Should you fuse? I think it's okay to skip this one, guys. I'll just be honest. Now, the actual champion itself, he's not terrible or anything, but he's not god tier. You know, Sir Nicholas, if we had that as the fusion this year, definitely would have been a better champion in comparison to Tormund the Cold. But he definitely has some interesting skills and abilities, so let's take a look at those. Just first of all, because he is in the champion index now. So if we go to the index and we go to dwarves, we can see that he does have quite a bit of skills here. They're all going to be freeze related. You can see the blue color there. So let's start off with number one. His auto attack attacks all enemies, has a 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn, instantly activates the skill whenever an enemy under both a freeze and a HP burn debuff takes damage from the HP burn debuff. So pretty cool thing about this skill is that it's an AoE, always nice because now that makes him decent in the campaign and also decent in dungeons where the trash waves have so much HP and there's a lot of monsters that you have to fight in those first couple of waves to actually end up getting to the boss. So that's a pretty cool part about him. Also, he is a defensive champion, which is probably going to be the best scaler. So you have defense, you have HP, and then you have attack. And of course, defense and HP going to be better than attack because not only can you work on a strong defense, but you're also working on a strong offense at the same time. So interesting skill right there. Second skill removes all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks the target 2 times, steals all buffs instead if the target is under a freeze debuff, will ignore defense if the target is under both a freeze and a HP burn debuff. So lots of synergy with his freeze and also additional synergy if you have an HP burn. Now, I don't believe he actually has an HP burn himself, so you're going to need to synergize with another champion on our team that does have an HP burn to really get the full impact of his abilities. Then you have his third skill, attacks all enemies, places a block buffs, debuffs, and a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns on enemies under freeze debuffs, has a 60% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies not under freeze debuffs, decreases the cooldown of 1 random skill of each ally by 1 turn for every enemy attacked under both a freeze and an HP burn debuff. So again, lots of additional synergy with freeze and HP burn. That's kind of one of the big themes among this champion, is he really does benefit from that additional synergy. And in my opinion, his best ability and the thing that really makes him cool and unique is his passive, which has a 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the enemy each time they receive a buff, get healed, or have their turn meter filled. The 15% chance applies for each effect individually in cases where an enemy receives multiple of these effects at the same time. And then the active effect of this is revives this champion to 100% HP when killed and places a freeze debuff on this champion for 1 turn. So the cooldown of 8 turns, which you can lower down to 6, I believe is just for the active effect. The passive is pretty cool because champions are definitely going to receive buffs, get healed, and have their turn meter filled quite a bit, especially if they have masteries, you know, for things like the arena. This is going to be really useful, and if this freeze procs at the right times, it can definitely change some things up with the way that arena is right now. Now, that being said, I think that's the coolest thing about this champion. You know, he does have that area of effect. He does have some interesting skills and some good synergy with freeze and HP burn. But if you don't end up getting this champion, it's not like you won't be able to complete certain parts of the game. You don't need this guy in order to do anything. He's cool to have. He looks really cool. And if you're a collector, obviously you want to get all the champions. But if you do miss out on this fusion, you know, I wouldn't really end up feeling too bad about it. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly because I really spent some time thinking about this, and I really tried my best. You guys know I always try to stay on the bright side, think of the good things, but unfortunately, when it does come to this fusion, there are going to be more bad things that I could think of than good. But let's start off with the good first of all. So, first of all, there are no new epic champions for this fusion, which is kind of a nice thing. That's a theme that we've really had among these fusions, is they always seem to introduce a bunch of new champions at the same time as a fusion. So there's no way, even if you have every champion in the game, there's no way that you could have had every champion in order to complete the fusion right away. This is actually going to be a case where you could, if you have done a lot of summons or if you've been playing for a while, you can actually have all of the requirements for the fusion without doing any of the events. And I know there are a few people that are already at this point. Some YouTubers have said that they pretty much have everything for this fusion already. I do not. I know I have, I think, 2 of these guys. I want to say that I have Towering Titan and I have Rowan, but I don't have Basher because I think I used him for another fusion, and I don't have Exemplar. This is a full Void fusion as well. If you guys have seen all Void champions, that includes the rares, the epics, and of course the legendary itself is going to be a Void as well. So that's one good thing I could think of. The other is no RNG requirements for champions that you need from dungeon or campaign drops. This was a really big problem in the last couple of fusions, is there were certain champions that you needed in the actual fusion where you could only end up getting them from, say, the Spider or Dragon's Lair or stuff like that. And if you got really unlucky, you could spend several thousand energy just farming a specific dungeon to get one rare champion for the fusion. And if you didn't get it, then it was really, really annoying. And that happened to me with Spider. I think it was Tree Feller or Tree Fellow. I forgot the name of that champion, but you needed it for fusion. And it took me something like 5,000 or 6,000 energy just to get them. So don't have to deal with that for this fusion. The downside to that is now there's a bunch of duplicate events. So we have that artifact enhancement event not once but twice, and this is a theme among some other events in this fusion as well. So that's kind of what they did to compensate, taking out the RNG that you needed for champions and other fusions. The other good stuff is Tormund the Cold. He's not god tier. He's good. He's interesting. He's unique. But, you know, if you don't end up getting him, it's totally okay. You really shouldn't end up feeling too bad. Like, if Sir Nicholas is the fusion, I would not be saying this. I would be saying you're going to want to try to do the Sir Nicholas fusion if you don't have him, because it's pretty darn good. But for this guy, you know, it's okay to skip. It should make you feel a little bit better about skipping out on this fusion, knowing that he's not a complete god tier champion. So that's one of the bright things that I could think of. And the other is, and this is honestly, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is that every champion in this fusion is a Void champion. So, you know, there's good things about this and there's bad things about this. The good stuff is, even if you guys don't end up going for the legendary fusion, maybe there's a couple of Void rares that you want in this list here. If you're a collector or you just want to have them, you'll be able to actually get all those Void rares from the event. So even if you don't focus on the actual legendary, you know, maybe you want to end up getting some Void rares to kind of collect that are a part of this fusion, because normally you have to summon Void Shards to get those, and Void Shards are definitely treated as much more valuable than Ancient Shards. Also, for the Ascension Potions, you're going to need a lot of Void Potions. You don't need the other ones, though, so again, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It kind of really depends. Now, unfortunately, let's get into the bad and the ugly, because there are more of these than there are good things. And the bad is going back to, you know, possibly skipping out on the fusion, is he's very middle of the road, you know, maybe a little bit above average, but, he's not a must-have. So this fusion event, it could be a good thing, because if he was way better than what he is right now and the event was as difficult as it is, I think a lot of people would feel really bad that they wouldn't be able to get him. So, everyone kind of has mixed feelings about whether it's a good thing that he's not the best or whether it's a bad thing, but, that is something to consider. Another bad thing is, just like a lot of other fusions, a lot of the champions have been reused from other fusions. I even mentioned it, that one of the champions that I used to have that I don't have anymore for the fusion is Basher. And I know that you've had to use this guy for at least one other fusion, maybe even more. Towering Titan, of course, we've had to use this guy for at least one or two other fusions. A lot of the rares, you need them for many different fusions, so very difficult when they just keep reusing the same champions for the fusions for you to have the materials to complete it, because you're just going to need so many copies of the same units. Instead of diversifying and using, all the different units in the game, that would make it a lot easier for people to complete these fusions. They choose to go down the Plarium route and reuse the same champions so that you have a much less chance of actually being able to have the requirements for it. So that's definitely a bad thing. Another bad thing is multiple summon rushes and champion chases. Now, this is going to be especially bad, and this is added to the ugly list, that we don't have a double rates event going on with these summon rushes and champion chases. But just like the artifact enhancement event for the fusion, if you take a look at the list of events, there's going to be multiple Summon Rush. Summon Rush 1, December 13th through the 15th. Summon Rush 2, the 24th through the 26th. Then we have a Champion Chase tournament from the 20th to the 22nd. That's a lot of summoning events. I'm hoping at least one of these, maybe even two of them, have something extra, like a double rates on top of it, but it's always really painful and difficult to do these summoning events when there is nothing else added on top of it. And the fact that it is a 7,000 point summon rush is insane. So I think I get to that on the list as well. So now as we get to the ugly, leading into that insane event point requirement. So not just for the Summon Rush, which has a 7,000 point requirement, but also the champion training, 33,000 points, is pretty insane. Now, the one bright side to this is there's two roads to go down for this fusion. You can get the epics and fuse those to get the legendaries, or you can do the easier option and just get the rares, which are not going to be as difficult to get as the epics, and then fuse the rares to the epics, and then, of course, the epics to the legendaries. So even though, for example, the Summon Rush has 7,000 points, you don't have to get the 5,730 for the Towering Titan. You can end up just getting the 4 rares in order to fuse the Towering Titan without getting it directly. So for Towering Titan, it would be right here at the top. Yes, you can get it from that Summon Rush, but if you don't want to get the almost 6,000 points, you can get Centurion, Interceptor, Harvester, and Vanguard, and then fuse Towering Titan from those. So that is something to be mindful of. No double rates events with the summon events. This is a really big, really painful for me, as I always advocate saving your shards for double rates. It's going to be, without a doubt, the best summoning event that we have. So having these insanely high point requirement summon rushes without anything else going on is really, really ugly, at least for me anyway, and definitely makes me not want to summon nearly as much. I'm going to try to do as many summons and points for the summon rush without actually using Ancient Voids or Sacreds. I'm going to try to get a lot of these points done through Mystery Shards, which is another reason why not a bad idea to save up your Mystery Shards for situations like this. And the last thing that I could think of, at least for now, I'm sure if I think about it for another 20 minutes, I could add more things to the list, but I'm going to try to keep the negativity right about here, is there's 2 of a lot of different events in this fusion. So that includes the Artifact Enhancement event, another reason to save silver, 2 Summon Rushes, 2 Arena Assault events, and that is a lot of events to drain resources for this holiday fusion. So overall, guys, my opinion, fuse or skip. I don't think it's a bad thing if you do decide to skip it. I wouldn't really feel too bad about it. If you're a collector, if you want to go for it, if you're really up for the challenge, or if you're just a whale overall, then sure, go for it. But, obviously a bit disappointed that this is what we got for the holiday fusion. I'm really hoping that there's at least something else coming from Plarium over the next couple of weeks. But, I know Plarium a little too well by now, and I really have my expectations pretty darn low. So with that being said, that's going to be it for the video today. Again, I apologize that it was a bit more negative than I wanted it to be, but I had to say what I did, so I hope you guys understand. And with that being said, if you guys did enjoy the video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you again for all the support, everyone. Toss a quick like if you want. It means a whole bunch. And plenty more Raid Shadow Legends videos on the channel. Guides, tutorials, news announcements, all that fun stuff should be popping up on the screen right about now, and also in the suggested videos to the right. Feel free to check out the Raid Shadow Legends playlist on the channel. Almost 100 videos so far. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, and until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.